What if I told you a company created something that has millions of people lining up for it every single year, and it is not a product launch? It is not an iPhone. What it is, it's a social media campaign. Spotify Wrapped is what we're going to be talking about today, but let's rewind a second. When Spotify first dropped this campaign, it was 2015, and it was actually called Year in Music. That was the original term for it. It wasn't Wrapped until the following year in 2016, but the idea was very simple. You take the streaming data from its users, favorite artists, top songs, most listened to. They turned it into a fun, shareable story that was specific to that person. And over time, as I'm sure you know, it evolved into a global event. And as it goes on, Spotify isn't just releasing the same thing over and over again. It is actually keeping it fresh and new and adding new twists and new features every single year. And something unique that they do, every year it drops, they actually change the day it launches. And that's not because they're unorganized. It's because they are using a classic advertising and marketing fundamental. They are using anticipation. They are building anticipation for when this drops. So people aren't just thinking about it the week or the day it drops, but they're waiting for the entire month, the end of the entire year. Oh, when is it going to come? And it's in their mind because it gets dropped so suddenly. Of course, it is specifically designed for sharing. The whole Spotify Wrapped, the way it's designed, artwork to the format of it, it is designed for you to share it on other platforms to get more exposure to them. It is no secret that this has become a cultural phenomenon. When Spotify Wrapped drops, quite literally, it is unavoidable on social. It is absolutely unavoidable, and people do speak negatively about it, like, oh, no one cares about your Spotify Wrapped, but guess what? That's still talking about it. It has a much more positive sentiment than negative overall, but it is impossible to ignore, and not only are people posting about their own Spotify Wrapped, but it is such a cultural moment. Isn't this crazy to me? It is a trend every single year where other companies make memes and make styles around the Spotify Wrapped style to fit into this cultural moment, this humongous moment that Spotify created. They created this marketing campaign that is a literal yearly phenomenon that everyone tunes into. If you want to get attention around this time, you're going to make content or make stuff or make ads around this Spotify Wrapped style, okay? So now the question is, it works so well. Why does it work so well? First thing, personalization. Every single user has a campaign made just for them, not a general rule of certain people. They want to know, oh, what did I do this year? It's extremely focused on the person. Here's your year. Here's your top artist. Here's your vibe. Okay, it makes people feel important and feel seen. That's number one. Number two, the shareability. Social media, guess what people do? They share what's going on with themselves again. But not only that, not only are they so into it because it's about themselves, but it is built to be shared. They make sure the format is shareable. They make sure to lean heavily into that. Okay, and also it creates FOMO, fear of missing out, builds anticipation. Okay, and it's funny. They're taking their users' data and telling a story with it. There's not many circumstances or situations where customers want a company having all their data. It's not very typical for a consumer to like. But in this case, people love it. They love to give their data to Spotify. Absolutely love it. And again, I always want to hit on it. This is not just to make a lot of noise on social and then write it off, but this is driving business growth every single year. Every single year. In 2020, Spotify saw a 21% jump in mobile downloads. The week of Spotify Wrapped's release, a 21% jump in mobile downloads. From 2021 to 2022, there was a 461% increase in tweets mentioning Spotify Wrapped. And that's when it was already becoming a thing. Obviously, took a humongous jump in those 2 years. In that year rather, but 461% increase in tweets. And in that same year, 2021, 120 million users engaged with Spotify Wrapped. Then in 2022, 156 million participated in Wrapped. And then this is absurd, in 2022, more than 425 million tweets were posted about it in 3 days. 425 million tweets. And that is just building because of what it is. They aren't spending a crazy amount of money to get 425 million people to talk about it, but because of something they're doing, they're getting their customers to talk about themselves to the point where 425 million people are discussing it. Like, keep in mind, to reach that amount of people, it will cost millions and millions of dollars. But they have used their data and their customers to have them do it for them. People are talking about Spotify because they want to. And I want to hit on it again. It's because they're so focused on the user. Guess what? If you're a business owner, if you're marketing for a business, people, for the most part, don't care about your business. They care about themselves. And when your business is highlighting something they are so attached to and they feel so important, like music, they will talk about your company by talking about themselves. When they post on their story, oh, look at my Spotify Wrapped, they aren't doing it because they like Spotify. They're doing it because they want people to say, look at me, I listen to this. Look at me, I did this and that. And Spotify understands that, and they did it so well. They let the campaign focus on the customer. They use the customer's sense of self-love and narcissism in a lot of ways to advertise their product with $0 in ad spend. Do you understand? $0 in ad spend. And we're going to get into it a little bit more about why it's so important, what we can do for our own brands to learn from and to implement. That sense of importance the customer feels for themselves, not your business. They don't love your business. A lot of the time, when we're marketing our brands, we're thinking, oh yeah, people care about it. You kind of have to be reminded, they don't care unless they have a reason to care, okay? And like of those 425 million tweets, for example, and that's just tweets. Like, keep in mind, that's not talking about Instagram posts. It's not talking about Instagram stories. It's not talking about TikToks. It's not talking about Snapchat. That was just on X. Besides the hundreds of millions of other posts that are getting posted about Spotify Wrapped, even big companies and influencers and other people are making their versions of Spotify Wrapped. How many situationships did you wrap this year? Coffee, your wraps for coffee. People make memes and jokes. The list goes on and on and on. And it is such an amplification that Spotify has created just by this idea of falling into, I think, the strongest driver. When I look at this whole campaign, the strongest driver is focusing love for themselves. Honestly, that's why I drive it. It really flips the story. It does it, and a lot of great marketing does that, where it's not saying, hey, look at me. It's saying, here is you. And then on top of that, you make it easy to share, and people will do just that. Again, what's beautiful is that we try to think a lot of the time of like how to make something a ritual or make something reusable, so you don't have to always rely on something new, the next new thing. But this has become a yearly thing for Spotify. Every single year, they know they can have this to rely on every year. And that proves an idea is very, very strong and can live on for a long, long time. Realistically, it's just ego marketing done right. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, we all love ourselves, every single one of us. So it's not ego in a negative way. But Spotify allowed you to focus on yourself, think about yourself, talk about your music choice. And that is just so well done. So what can we learn from that? Okay. One thing that is kind of unusual, data. We all have data on our customers to some extent. But instead of using that data for your own gain, flip that and think of it, how can I use what I know about my customer to give to the customer and not take? How can you flip that script and say, okay, I have all this information, what can I give to the customer? Because that would create things in a slightly different light than how we're typically thinking. This also hits on a fundamental, and that fundamental is, don't talk about, oh, look, we launched, or we're so proud to announce, or we hit this milestone. No. It's the user story. Drive with the benefits, of course, always, but it is the user's story. Real life example. Let's take roofers, for example. Now let's talk social content, okay? If a roofing company solely focuses on, look at what we do, look how we put this roof, how we put this roof, how we put this roof, I don't think that hits nearly as hard as if it took a different approach as the customer's experience to them. Focus on what the customer enjoyed, what the customer thought. And even to the point where we're thinking about campaigns and content ideas that leads with, what did the customer think? What did the customer experience? Because I think that is a way to tell your story and show your benefits without sounding like me. Example, let's use the roofers and a content series. So not as big as a campaign like this, but let's use a content series. So if there's a series of customers, this is kind of stupid, truly off the top of my head. For the customers that will be willing to, that you get video of them giving a testimonial. So if you have an array of testimonials, say you build up to 10, 15 testimonials from your customers, make a music video out of it. Make music videos out of your customers' testimonials where you make a song, you edit it. Yes, hire an editor. I know it's scary for some people. Hire an editor, hire a team. make a series of music videos around your customers' testimonials, or even a mix of testimonials into a song, into one album. That's taking a page out of Liquid Death's book with their campaign where they dropped a whole album of their haters' comments, so the other way around. But imagine you made a mixtape or a music video around your customers' testimonials, and the visuals of the mixtape can be your customers and also your roof and what you did or whatever your product is. Use that to make the music video. And guess what? That is a way for a roofing company to do something different, stand out from the rest of their competition, because guess what? If you get millions of views on your roofing company, even for something as weird as that, and once you have all that attention, when someone's thinking about getting a new roof, what company are they going to think of? Yours. Stand out uniquely, but look at it from your customer's point of view. How can you highlight their experience? Because guess what? If Spotify is getting all these people to talk about their platform and their service, guess what you're going to do when you're thinking about what music platform to get or what music app to get? You're going to think Spotify, because you don't want to miss out. Everyone's doing Spotify app. You want to do it too. They got you on board. So another wonderful example about how a company turned their audience into their own marketers, which has been a leading topic of a couple episodes. I learned a lot from this one. I'm going to extract what I can from it as I do with all these episodes. But tune into the next episode. We are going to discuss Young LA and how they stood out in a saturated market using social media. That's the next episode. I'll catch you guys then.